Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it, then let's evaluate together. Chicago's skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Starlight Innovations, a tech empire nestled in the heart of the Loop. The city hummed below, a symphony of car horns and late-night jazz spilling from nearby clubs. Inside the sleek open-plan office, the air was thick with the buzz of ambition, and for Maya Jackson, a whole lot of panic. Maya, 27, sat hunched over her desk, her dark curls pulled into a messy bun that was more chaos than chic. Her brown eyes, framed by square glasses, darted across her laptop screen. Papers littered her desk like confetti after a parade, and a half-empty coffee cup teetered dangerously close to the edge. She was a new hire at Starlight, a rising star in Chicago's tech scene, but right now, she felt like a fish flopping on dry land. "Idiot," she muttered, rubbing her temples. "Why'd you hit send, Maya?" The email had been a joke, a late-night vent to her best friend, Trey, titled, "Somebody Save Me from This Job." She'd written it to blow off steam, poking fun at her boss's obsession with deadlines and her own knack for screwing things up. "Dear team," it read, "I'm one coffee spill away from quitting. My boss is a robot in a suit. Send help, or at least a donut. Maya." She'd meant to save it as a draft, but in her sleep-deprived haze, she'd sent it to the entire company group inbox, including, she realized with a sinking stomach, the CEO's account. Maya groaned, resting her forehead on her keyboard. She could already picture the HR meeting, her badge confiscated, her dreams of making it in tech crumbling faster than a cheap phone screen. Growing up in Southside, she'd clawed her way to this job with a scholarship to Northwestern and a stubborn streak inherited from her mom, a nurse who'd worked double shifts to keep the lights on. Her dad, a soul DJ who spun records at local clubs, had taught her to find rhythm in chaos. But this was a full-on disaster. She pushed her glasses up her nose and glanced at the clock, 1:37 a.m. The office was a ghost town, save for the hum of computers and the distant rattle of a janitor's cart. She'd been burning the midnight oil to finish a project proposal, hoping to prove she was more than the rookie who'd tripped over a power cord her first week. Starlight was her shot to belong somewhere bigger than the cramped apartment she'd grown up in, but now she wasn't sure she'd last the month. Needing a break, Maya grabbed her empty coffee cup and headed to the break room. Her sneakers squeaked on the polished floor, and she tugged at her blazer, a thrift store find paired with a scarf printed with bold African patterns, a gift from her mom. She popped in her earbuds, letting her dad's favorite soul track, Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On," wash over her. Her hips swayed slightly as she moved, the music a small rebellion against the sterile office vibe. The break room was a sleek oasis of chrome and glass, with a fancy coffee machine that looked like it belonged in a spaceship. Maya set her cup down and started the machine, humming along to the song. She didn't hear the door open behind her, didn't notice the tall figure step inside until she turned, mid-spin, and nearly crashed into him. "Whoa!" she yelped, stumbling. A strong hand caught her arm, steadying her, and her earbuds popped out, leaving the room painfully silent. "Sorry," a deep voice said, laced with amusement. "Didn't mean to sneak up on you." Maya's breath caught as she looked up. The man was all sharp angles and quiet confidence, his navy suit tailored to perfection. His dark brown hair was slightly tousled, like he'd run a hand through it one too many times, and his blue eyes held a spark that made her stomach flip. He wasn't just handsome. He was dangerously handsome, the kind of guy who could make you forget your own name. No, my bad," Maya stammered, pushing her glasses up again. "I was just vibing, you know?" She gestured vaguely at her earbuds, then cringed. "Vibing? Really, Maya?" He smiled, a small, crooked thing that softened his sharp edges. "I saw. Marvin Gaye, right? Good choice." She blinked, surprised. You know soul? Grew up on it, he said, leaning against the counter. My grandpa used to play it non-stop. Said it was the only music that told the truth. Maya grinned, relaxing a fraction. My dad would like you. He's a DJ, lives for this stuff. She turned to grab her coffee, but her elbow knocked over a jar of sugar, sending granules spilling across the counter. Oh, come on, she muttered, reaching for a napkin. Here, the man said, grabbing a cloth before she could. His hand brushed hers as he handed it over, and a jolt shot through her, like static electricity but warmer, deeper. Their eyes locked, and for a heartbeat the world shrank to just them. The hum of the coffee machine, the faint scent of his cologne, the way his gaze lingered on her lips. Maya swallowed, stepping back. Thanks, Call me Jay, he said, his voice low, like he was sharing a secret. Jay, she repeated, testing it. I'm Maya, new here obviously since I'm spilling sugar at 2 a.m. He chuckled, and the sound did something funny to her chest. You're doing fine, Maya. This place can be a lot. Tell me about it, she said, rolling her eyes. I'm one wrong email away from getting canned. She froze, realizing she'd just hinted at her screw-up. Not that I, sent anything weird. Nope, all good here. Jay's smile widened, like he knew more than he was letting on. Sure, but if you need a coffee guy to back you up, I'm around. Coffee guy, huh? Maya teased, her nerves easing. Careful, I might hold you to that. She grabbed her coffee and headed for the door, but something made her pause. Maybe it was the late hour, or the music still humming in her head, or the way Jay's eyes followed her, steady and intense. She turned back, and he was closer now, close enough that she could see the faint stubble on his jaw, the pulse at his throat. Jay, she said, her voice softer. Why are you here so late? Don't you have, like, a life? He stepped closer, his gaze never leaving hers. Could ask you the same thing. The air between them crackled, heavy with something unspoken. Maya's heart pounded, her coffee cup forgotten in her hand. She should walk away, get back to her desk, save her job. But her feet wouldn't move, and when Jay reached out, his fingers grazing her wrist, she didn't pull back. Maya, he murmured, his voice rough, like he was fighting himself. You're trouble, you know that? Me? She said, trying to laugh, but it came out breathless. You're the one sneaking around break rooms. He closed the distance, and before she could think, his lips were on hers. The kiss was fire, hot, urgent, like they'd both been holding back for too long. His hands found her waist, pulling her closer, and she melted into him, her fingers curling into his jacket. The world spun, the taste of coffee and him flooding her senses. She kissed him back, hard, like she could pour every ounce of her fear and fight into it. Then reality crashed in. Maya jerked back, her chest heaving. What? What was that? She gasped, touching her lips. Jay looked as stunned as she felt, his eyes dark with something she couldn't name. I don't know, he said, his voice raw, but I'm not sorry. She stared at him, her mind a mess. This was insane. She didn't even know this guy, not really. For all she knew, he was some mid-level manager with a corner office and a girlfriend waiting at home. I gotta go, she mumbled, grabbing her earbuds and bolting for the door. Maya, wait, he called, but she was already gone, her sneakers pounding the carpet back to her desk. She collapsed into her chair, her face burning. Her coffee was cold now, but her lips still tingled, and her heart wouldn't slow down. Get it together, Jackson, she whispered, shaking her head. She couldn't afford to lose her head over some guy, not when her job was hanging by a thread. But when she reached for her laptop, she noticed something new, a sticky note stuck to her monitor, written in neat, slanted handwriting. You light up this place, even at 2 a.m., JC. Maya's breath caught. JC? Who was that? She glanced back toward the break room, but Jay was gone. Her fingers traced the note, and despite herself, she smiled. Maybe Chicago nights weren't all bad. The next morning, Starlight's office buzzed with its usual chaos. Phones ringing, keyboards clacking, interns dodging between cubicles. Maya sat at her desk, her scarf draped over her chair, trying to focus on her project proposal. But her mind kept drifting to last night. The kiss, the note, the way Jay's hands had felt, steady and sure. She hadn't slept much, and the email disaster loomed like a storm cloud. By now, half the company had probably seen her rant. She imagined her boss, a stern woman named Karen, marching over with a pink slip. Or worse, the CEO himself, Ethan Caldwell, reading her dumb joke about robots in suits. She'd never met the guy, but rumors painted him as a cold, brilliant workaholic who didn't tolerate mistakes. "Yo, Maya!" a voice called, snapping her out of her spiral. Trey Brooks, her best friend since high school, leaned against her cubicle, his dreads tied back and a grin on his face. Trey was a freelance journalist, always chasing a story, but he made time to check on her. "Not now, Trey," Maya said, glancing around nervously. "I'm in deep, man." "Heard about your email," he said, not bothering to lower his voice. "Bold move, clowning your boss to the whole company." She groaned, burying her face in her hands. "It was an accident. I'm toast, aren't I?" "Nah, you're a survivor," Trey said, nudging her shoulder. "But you gotta lock it down. This place eats rookies for breakfast." "Tell me something I don't know," she muttered, then hesitated. "Hey, you ever meet a guy here named Jay? Tall, suit, kinda intense?" Trey raised an eyebrow. "Jay, huh? Sounds like trouble. What'd he do?" Maya's cheeks warmed. "Nothing. Just helped me clean up a mess in the break room." "Uh-huh," Trey said, smirking. "Spill the tea, Jackson." Before she could answer, her laptop pinged with a new email. Her stomach dropped as she saw the sender. Starlight Group inbox. It was her rant, forwarded by someone, probably Karen, with a subject line, "Unprofessional conduct." Maya's heart sank. This was it. Game over. But then she noticed another sticky note on her keyboard, slipped there while she was distracted. "Chin up, Maya. You've got this. J.C." She stared at the note, her pulse racing. J.C. again. Was it Jay? And if it was, why was he rooting for her? She tucked the note into her pocket, next to a faded photo she always carried. A picture of her as a kid, standing with her parents in front of a grand house she didn't recognize. Her mom had never explained the photo, and now, with her mom gone, it was a mystery Maya couldn't shake. As she opened her proposal, determined to salvage her job, a shadow fell over her desk. Vanessa Reed, Ethan's executive assistant, stood there, her blonde hair sleek, her smile sharp as a blade. "Morning, Maya," Vanessa said, her tone syrupy. "Big day, huh? I heard about your email. Hope you're ready for the consequences." Maya forced a smile, her grip tightening on her mouse. "Just doing my job, Vanessa." "Good," Vanessa said, her eyes glinting. "Because Starlight doesn't keep people who can't handle the heat." As Vanessa walked away, Maya exhaled, her resolve hardening. She didn't know who J.C. was, or what Jay wanted, or how she'd survive this mess. But she was Maya Jackson, Southside tough, and she wasn't going down without a fight. Hey, you made it through the spark that started it all, that kiss between Maya and Jay. Whew, talk about a Chicago night to remember. But who's J.C., and what's the deal with that mysterious photo? Stick with us to find out if Maya can save her job and unravel the secrets of Starlight. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment with your guess. Who's Jay, and what's he hiding? Your thoughts fuel this story, so let's keep it rolling. The Starlight Innovations office was a pressure cooker by Monday morning. the air thick with the clatter of keyboards and the sharp tang of overbrewed coffee. Maya Jackson sat at her desk, her scarf draped over her chair like a battle flag, her fingers hovering over her laptop. The sticky note from JC was tucked in her pocket, a small lifeline in the storm that was her life right now. Her email blunder, the one where she'd called her boss a robot in a suit to the entire company, had gone viral in the worst way. Whispers followed her through the cubicles, and she caught more than one coworker smirking at their screens. "Keep it together, Jackson," she muttered, adjusting her glasses. Her project proposal, a beast of a presentation due in a week, stared back at her, half-finished. She'd been up until 3 a.m. again, fueled by coffee and sheer stubbornness. Southside didn't raise quitters, and Maya wasn't about to let a dumb email tank her career. But the memory of that kiss in the break room, hot, reckless, with the guy who called himself Jay, kept sneaking into her head, messing with her focus. She could still feel his hands on her waist, the way his lips had claimed hers like they'd been waiting for it all along. It was insane. She didn't even know his last name, or if he was some player who kissed random rookies for kicks. And those notes from JC? They were either sweet or suspicious, and Maya wasn't sure which scared her more. A shadow fell over her desk, and she looked up to see Vanessa Reed, Ethan Caldwell's executive assistant, standing there like a storm cloud in a pencil skirt. Vanessa's blonde hair was pulled into a perfect chignon, her smile all teeth and no warmth. "Morning, Maya," she said, her voice dripping with fake cheer. "Rough weekend?" Maya forced a grin, leaning back in her chair. "Just peachy, Vanessa. How about you?" Vanessa's eyes narrowed, catching the defiance. "Oh, I'm fine. But I heard about your little email. Quite the splash for a newbie." She paused, tapping a manicured nail on Maya's desk. "The boss wants to see you in his office. Now." Maya's stomach lurched. The boss, Karen Walsh, her team leader, was a no-nonsense type who probably had a file labeled "Reasons to Fire Maya" by now. "Sure thing," Maya said, standing and smoothing her blazer. Her scarf caught on the chair, nearly yanking her back, and Vanessa's smirk widened. "Don't keep her waiting," Vanessa said, sauntering off, her heels clicking like a countdown. Maya grabbed her notebook, her heart hammering. As she navigated the maze of cubicles, she passed a group of interns whispering, their eyes darting her way. "Great," she muttered. "I'm the office meme now." Karen's office was a glass-walled box at the end of the hall, all sharp angles and minimal decor. Maya knocked, her knuckles barely grazing the door before Karen's voice barked. "Come in!" Karen Walsh, mid-40s with a bob so severe it could cut glass, sat behind her desk, her laptop open too. Yep, there it was, Maya's infamous email. "Sit," Karen said, not looking up. Maya sank into the chair, clutching her notebook like a shield. "Ms. Walsh, I can explain." "No need," Karen said, finally meeting her eyes. "You called me a robot. In front of the entire company, including the CEO. What's there to explain?" Maya winced. "It was a mistake. I meant to send it to a friend, not everyone. I'm sorry. It won't happen again." Karen leaned back, her expression unreadable. "You're lucky I don't have time to deal with this right now. But you're on thin ice, Jackson. One more slip, and you're out." She slid a folder across the desk. "Vanessa dropped this off. It's a new assignment. A full project proposal for our AI analytics platform, due in 5 days. Maya's jaw dropped. 5 days? That's non-negotiable, Karen cut in. Starlight doesn't coddle rookies. Get it done or start packing. Maya took the folder, her hands shaking. A proposal like this would take a seasoned team 2 weeks, minimum. 5 days was a death sentence. Yes, ma'am, she said, standing. She made it to the door before Karen added, "And Jackson? Keep your jokes to yourself." Back at her desk, Maya opened the folder, her heart sinking further. The requirements were a nightmare. Market analysis, technical specs, financial projections, all for a project she barely understood. She glanced around, hoping for a friendly face, but the other analysts were buried in their own work, or avoiding her like she had the plague. Her phone buzzed with a text from Trey. "You alive? Or did they fire you yet?" She typed back, "Barely. Just got handed a suicide mission. Pray for me." Trey's reply was instant. "Southside tough, remember? You got this. Call if you need me." Maya smiled, but it faded fast. She needed more than pep talks. She needed a miracle. By 7 p.m., the office had thinned out, leaving Maya alone with her laptop and a headache that felt like a marching band. She'd made some progress on the proposal, but the data she needed was locked behind a server she didn't have access to. She'd emailed Karen for help, but the response was curt. "Figure it out." "Figure it out," Maya mimicked, slumping in her chair. "Sure. Let me just hack the mainframe while I'm at it." She stood, stretching her arms, and headed for the break room, her earbuds blasting Aretha Franklin's Respect. The music was her anchor, a reminder of her dad spinning records in their tiny living room, her mom laughing as they danced. She needed that energy now, something to keep her from drowning. The break room was empty, the coffee machine gleaming under the fluorescence. Maya started a fresh pot, swaying to Aretha's voice, when the door opened behind her. She turned, half expecting Vanessa's smirk, but it was him, Jay. He leaned against the doorframe, his tie loosened, a faint smile playing on his lips. "You're gonna wear out that floor dancing like that," he said. Maya yanked out her earbuds, her cheeks warming. "And you're gonna give me a heart attack sneaking up like that. What's your deal, Jay? You live here or something?" "Something like that," he said, stepping inside. His suit was wrinkled now, like he'd been at it as long as she had, but those blue eyes still pinned her in place. "Rough day?" She snorted, pouring coffee. "Rough life, more like. You?" He shrugged, grabbing a mug from the cabinet. "Just another day in paradise. You holding up okay?" "Barely," she admitted, leaning against the counter. "Got a project that's gonna bury me, and my boss is probably sharpening her axe. You ever feel like you're in over your head?" "All the time," he said, his voice softer. He moved closer, his arm brushing hers as he reached for the coffee pot. The contact sent a shiver through her, and she gripped her mug tighter, trying to ignore the way her pulse jumped. "Careful," she said, half teasing. "You're gonna spill something, and I'm not cleaning it up this time." He chuckled, low and warm. "I'll take my chances." They stood there, the space between them shrinking, the air heavy with the memory of that kiss. Maya's mind screamed at her to back off. This guy was trouble, and she had enough of that already. But her body had other ideas, leaning toward him like he was a magnet. Then the lights flickered, and the room went dark. A loud clunk echoed from the hallway, followed by the groan of machinery shutting down. Maya froze. "What the hell?" "Power outage," Jay said, his voice calm. "Happens sometimes. Old building." "Great," she muttered. "Just what I needed." "Come on," he said, his hand finding her elbow in the dark. "Let's check the elevator. Stairs are a hike from here." They fumbled their way to the elevator, the emergency lights casting weak shadows. Maya pressed the button, but the doors opened with a sluggish creak, and when they stepped inside, the lights flickered again. The doors closed, and then nothing. The elevator lurched once and stopped. "You've got to be kidding me," Maya said, jabbing the buttons. "We're stuck?" "Looks like it," Jay said, pulling out his phone. "No signal. Guess we're here for a bit." Maya groaned, sliding down the wall to sit on the floor. "Perfect. Trapped with my coffee guy, while my career goes down the drain. Coffee guy, huh? Jay said, sitting beside her. His knee brushed hers, and even in the dim light, she could see the amusement in his eyes. I like that. Don't get cocky, she said, but her lips twitched. You're still on probation for that stunt in the break room. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. You didn't seem to mind. Her breath caught, the memory of his lips flashing through her. Yeah, well, I was delirious. Lack of sleep does that. Uh-huh, he said, his hand resting on the floor, inches from hers. The air in the elevator felt too warm, too small, like it was pressing them together. His fingers grazed her wrist, a feather-light touch that sent heat curling through her. Maya, he said, his voice rough. You're making it real hard to behave. She should have pulled away, told him to chill, but her body betrayed her, leaning into his touch, her eyes locked on his. You're not exactly playing fair either, she whispered. His hand slid to her waist, slow, deliberate, like he was giving her a chance to stop him. She didn't. His thumb traced the curve of her hip through her blazer, and her breath hitched, her hands finding his shoulders. The space between them vanished, and for a moment she thought they'd kiss again, lose themselves in the dark. But the elevator jolted, the lights snapping back on. The doors slid open, revealing an empty hallway. Maya scrambled to her feet, her face burning. Saved by the bell, she said, forcing a laugh. Jay stood, adjusting his tie, his eyes still on her. For now, he said, and the promise in his voice made her shiver. They stepped out, and Maya headed back to her desk, her mind a mess. She didn't notice the new sticky note on her monitor until she sat down. You're tougher than this place. Keep fighting. J.C. Her fingers traced the words, her heart racing. Jay had to be J.C., right? But why the secrecy? And why did he care? She glanced at the photo in her pocket, the one of her as a kid, standing with her parents in front of that strange house. Something about it nagged at her, like a puzzle piece she couldn't place. Across the office, Vanessa Reed sat in her corner cubicle, her laptop open to a file she shouldn't have. She'd seen the sticky note on Maya's desk, recognized the handwriting instantly. Ethan Caldwell, her Ethan, the CEO she'd spent years trying to impress, was playing pen pal with some rookie. Her fingers tightened on her mouse, her jaw clenched. Vanessa had clawed her way up from a trailer park in Cicero, scraping by on grit and charm. She'd earned her spot at Ethan's side, and she wasn't about to let Maya Jackson, a nobody from South Side, steal her shot. Not at Ethan, not at Starlight. She opened an email from Karen, confirming the impossible project she'd dumped on Maya. 5 days wasn't just a challenge. It was a trap, and Vanessa had another card to play. She'd overheard whispers about Henry Caldwell's health, rumors she could fan into a fire. If Henry stepped down, Ethan would need someone strong by his side, someone like her. Vanessa smiled, cold and sharp. Enjoy your little notes, Maya, she murmured. This game's just getting started. Back at her desk, Maya opened the project folder, her resolve hardening. She didn't know what Vanessa was playing at, or what J.C., whoever he was, wanted from her. But she was done running scared. She typed a reply on a sticky note, her handwriting bold. Thanks for the pep talk, J.C., but I don't need saving. Just coffee. You owe me. She stuck it to her monitor, grabbed her laptop, and dove back into work. The heat was on, and Maya Jackson was ready to fight. The Starlight Innovations office was a battlefield by Wednesday, the air crackling with deadlines and whispered gossip. Maya Jackson sat at her desk, her curls spilling out of a hasty ponytail, her glasses fogged from too many hours staring at her laptop. The project proposal Vanessa Reed had dumped on her, a sprawling plan for an AI analytics platform, was due in 2 days and Maya was drowning. She'd barely slept, surviving on coffee and the stubborn pride that had carried her from South Side to this glass and steel empire. Her desk was a war zone. Papers scrawled with notes, a cold coffee cup, and a new sticky note from JC that read, "You're killing it, Maya. Don't let them dim your shine. JC." She'd found it this morning, tucked under her keyboard, and it had sparked a flicker of warmth in her chest. Whoever JC was, Jay probably, he believed in her. That was more than she could say for most of the office. The email disaster still haunted her. Her rant, accidentally sent to the entire company, had made her a punchline. She'd overheard 2 analysts in the break room yesterday, snickering about the rookie who dissed Karen. Worse, Karen Walsh, her team leader, had barely spoken to her since their meeting, except to send curt emails demanding updates on the proposal. And Vanessa? That woman was a snake, always watching, her smile sharp enough to cut. Maya rubbed her eyes, then glanced at the photo in her pocket. The faded picture of her as a kid, standing with her parents in front of a grand house she didn't recognize. Her mom had never talked about it, and her dad only said it was from a job her mom had years ago. The mystery nagged at her, but she had no time to chase ghosts, not when her job was on the line. Her phone buzzed with a text from Trey Brooks, her best friend and self-appointed hype man. "Yo, you still breathing? Or did that project eat you alive?" She typed back, "Barely. Karen's gatekeeping the data I need and I'm running on fumes. Send help." Trey's reply was instant. "You're Maya freaking Jackson. They can't touch you. Hit me up if you need a wingman." She smiled, but it faded as she opened her laptop. The proposal was a mess. Half the data she needed was locked in a server she couldn't access, and Karen's last email had been clear. "Solve it yourself." Maya was starting to suspect this wasn't just a tough assignment. It felt personal. A shadow fell over her desk, and she looked up to see Vanessa, her blonde hair gleaming under the office lights, her expression all fake concern. "Maya, you look stressed," Vanessa said, tilting her head. "Everything okay with that proposal?" Maya forced a tight smile. "Just peachy, Vanessa. Thanks for the vibes." Vanessa's eyes glinted. "Good. Because the board's expecting a lot from this one. Wouldn't want you to fumble again." She paused, her voice dropping. "Like that email." Maya's grip tightened on her pen. "I'm handling it," she said, her tone clipped. "Anything else?" Vanessa shrugged, her smile turning cold. "Just a heads up. Karen's presenting your team's work at the board meeting tomorrow. Make sure your part's perfect." She turned on her heel and walked away, leaving a chill in her wake. Maya exhaled, her stomach twisting. Karen presenting? That meant her proposal would be front and center, and if it tanked, she'd be the one taking the fall. She dove back into her work, her fingers flying over the keyboard, but the missing data was a brick wall. She sent another email to Karen, practically begging for access, and got nothing but silence. By 9 p.m., the office was a ghost town, the Chicago skyline twinkling beyond the windows. Maya was still at her desk, her earbuds blasting Nina Simone's "Feeling Good" when she heard footsteps. She looked up, and there he was. Jay, leaning against her cubicle, his tie gone, his sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. "Burning the midnight oil again," he said, his voice low, that crooked smile tugging at his lips. Maya yanked out her earbuds, her heart doing a traitorous flip. "And you're still stalking the break room, huh? Don't you have a home, Jay?" He chuckled, stepping closer. "Home's overrated. Besides, I like the company here." Her cheeks warmed, and she cursed herself for it. That kiss in the break room 2 nights ago was still a live wire in her mind, hot, reckless, and way too dangerous. She didn't have time for distractions, especially not tall, blue-eyed ones who left cryptic notes. "Your trouble," she said, pointing her pen at him. "And I'm already drowning, so don't make it worse." "Trouble's my middle name," he said, his eyes locking on hers. "But you look like you could use a hand. What's got you so stressed?" She hesitated, then sighed. "This project. It's a monster, and I'm missing half the data I need. My boss is ghosting me, and if I screw this up, I'm done. Like pack my desk done." Jay's expression softened, and he pulled up a chair, sitting close enough that she caught the faint scent of his cologne. Woodsy, warm, distracting. "Tell me about it," he said. "Maybe I can help." She raised an eyebrow. "What, you're some data wizard now? What do you even do here, Jay?" He grinned, dodging the question. "I know my way around. Lay it out, Maya. What's the problem?" She gave him a skeptical look, but relented, explaining the proposal's requirements and the locked server. He listened, nodding, his gaze steady, like he was actually invested. When she finished, he leaned back, thoughtful. "Sounds like someone's setting you up to fail. You check the shared drive? Sometimes data gets misfiled." She frowned, opening her laptop. "I looked, but maybe I missed something." She navigated to the drive, following his suggestion, and there it was, a folder labeled Analytics Backup, buried in a subdirectory. Her jaw dropped. "How did you know that?" "Lucky guess," he said, but his smile was too knowing. She shook her head, a grudging smile tugging at her lips. "Okay, coffee guy. You're officially less annoying." "High praise," he said, his voice teasing. He stood, his hand brushing her shoulder as he did, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver through her. "You've got this, Maya. Don't let them rattle you." She watched him go, her heart pounding. That touch, that smile. It was too much. She needed to focus, not moon over some guy who was probably just being nice. But when she turned back to her laptop, she found another sticky note on her keyboard. "Told you you're tougher than this. Keep shining. JC." Her breath caught. It was him. It had to be. But why the alias? And why her? The next morning, the boardroom was a glass cathedral, its long table gleaming under the Chicago sunlight. Maya sat near the back, her palms sweaty, her proposal uploaded to the shared server. She'd finished it at 4 a.m., thanks to the data Jay had helped her find, but her nerves were shot. The board, 10 suits with sharp eyes and sharper expectations, filled the room, their murmurs a low hum. Ethan Caldwell, the CEO, presided at the head, his presence commanding. Maya had never seen him up close, but the rumors were true. He was all cold precision, his dark hair neat, his blue eyes scanning the room like a hawk. Karen stood at the front, clicking through a presentation that looked wrong. Maya's stomach dropped as she recognized her own slides. Her market analysis, her technical specs, even her color-coded charts. But Karen was presenting them as her own, not mentioning Maya once. "Impressive work, Karen," one board member said, nodding. "This is top tier." Maya's blood boiled. She'd poured her soul into that proposal, and Karen was stealing it. She glanced at Vanessa, who sat near Ethan, her smile smug. This wasn't just Karen's doing. Vanessa had orchestrated it, Maya was sure. She stood, her chair scraping loudly, every eye turning to her. Her heart pounded, but her voice was steady. "Excuse me," she said, clutching her laptop. "That's my work." The room went silent, the air thick with shock. Karen's face froze, her eyes narrowing. "Maya, sit down. This isn't the time." "No," Maya said, stepping forward. "I spent nights on this proposal. Those slides, those numbers, they're mine. I have proof. She opened her laptop, pulling up her drafts, time-stamped days before Karen's presentation. Check the metadata. It's all there. The board murmured, heads turning to Ethan. His gaze flicked to Maya, unreadable, then to Karen. Explain, he said, his voice like ice. Karen stammered, her composure cracking. I oversaw the project. Maya contributed, but— Contributed? Maya cut in, her voice rising. I built it from scratch. You didn't even give me the data until yesterday, and only because I found it myself. Ethan leaned forward, his eyes sharp. Show us, he said to Maya. She connected her laptop to the projector, her hands trembling but sure. The screen lit up with her drafts, each one dated, her notes visible in the margins. This is my work, she said, her voice stronger now. I didn't come here to be erased. The board erupted in questions, and Ethan raised a hand, silencing them. "IT, verify the timestamps," he ordered. Within minutes, a tech confirmed Maya's claim, the metadata undeniable. Karen slumped in her chair, mumbling apologies, her face red. Ethan's gaze lingered on Maya, a flicker of something, pride, in his eyes. "Miss Jackson," he said, "your work is noted. Karen, we'll discuss this later." As the meeting adjourned, Maya exhaled, her legs shaky. She'd done it. She'd fought and won. But Vanessa's glare from across the room told her this wasn't over. That evening, Maya was back at her desk tying up loose ends when a new email pinged. It was from Henry Caldwell, the company's chairman emeritus, inviting her to a family dinner at his estate. "You remind me of someone special," it read. "I'd like to know you better, Maya." She frowned, confused. Henry was a legend, the Caldwell patriarch. But why her? She thought of the photo in her pocket, the house that looked eerily like the Caldwell estate. Was there a connection? Her thoughts were interrupted by footsteps. Jay stood there, his suit jacket off, a coffee cup in hand. "Heard you slayed in there," he said, his smile warm. "Proud of you, Maya." Her heart skipped, but she played it cool. "Thanks, coffee guy. You slipping me cheat codes or something? That data tip was clutch." He laughed, setting the coffee on her desk. "Just looking out for a friend." "Friend, huh?" she said, raising an eyebrow. "You're gonna have to work harder than that, JC." His eyes widened, just for a second, before he recovered. "You're sharp," he said, stepping closer. His hand brushed hers, a deliberate touch that sent heat racing through her. "Careful, Maya. You're playing with fire." She leaned in, her voice low. "Maybe I like the burn." For a moment, they were inches apart, the air charged, her lips tingling with the memory of their kiss. But then he stepped back, his expression shifting. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice serious. "I'm not just—" "Maya!" a voice called, shattering the moment. Trey bounded over, his dreads bouncing. "You crushed it, girl. Told you you're untouchable." Jay slipped away, leaving Maya flustered. She turned to Trey, forcing a smile. "Yeah, but I'm still in the doghouse with half the office." "Psh, let 'em hate," Trey said. "But we need to talk." I dug into Vanessa. She's been snooping in the archives, looking for some old letter. Sounds shady. Maya's stomach tightened. "What kind of letter?" "No clue yet," Trey said. "But I'm on it. You focus on not getting fired." As Trey left, Maya sat down, her mind racing. Vanessa, the letter, Henry's invitation. It was all connected. She could feel it. She pulled out the photo, staring at the house. Her mom's past was a puzzle, and Starlight held the pieces. Across town, Vanessa sat in her apartment, a glass of wine in hand, her laptop open to a scanned document. It was old, faded from the Starlight archives, a letter about a car accident years ago, mentioning a lost heir to the Caldwell family. She'd found it by chance, but she saw opportunity. With a few tweaks, altered names, forged dates, she could make it say she was the heir. If Henry was as frail as the rumors suggested, the board would need a new leader, and Ethan would need her. She smiled, saving the file. Maya's stunt at the meeting had been a setback, but Vanessa wasn't done. She'd bury the rookie, claim her place, and make sure Ethan saw her as more than an assistant. "Game on, Maya," she whispered, her eyes cold. Back at Starlight, Maya packed up, her proposal safe for now. She found a new sticky note on her monitor. "You're unstoppable. Don't tell the boss I said that. JC." She grinned, writing a reply. "Coffee guy, you're gonna get me in trouble, but I owe you a donut. Maya." She stuck it to her screen, her heart lighter. Whatever Vanessa was planning, whatever secrets her mom's photo held, Maya was ready to face it. She was Maya Jackson, and she wasn't backing down. The Chicago skyline shimmered like a promise beyond the windows of Starlight Innovations, but inside, the air was thick with tension. Maya Jackson sat at her desk, her curls spilling from a loose bun, her glasses perched precariously on her nose. The victory at the board meeting, proving her proposal was stolen by Karen Walsh, should have felt like a win, but it was a hollow one. The office buzzed with new whispers, not about her email blunder anymore, but about her. The rookie who took down Karen, they called her, some with admiration, others with resentment. Maya felt the weight of every stare, every hushed conversation. Her laptop screen glowed with a new email from Vanessa Reed, Starlight's executive assistant and resident ice queen. The subject line was blunt: additional project requirements. Maya's stomach twisted as she opened it. Vanessa had tacked on a list of demands for the AI analytics proposal. New financial models, a competitive analysis, all due by Monday. 3 days. It was a deliberate gut punch, and Maya knew it. "Real classy, Vanessa," she muttered, rubbing her temples. She glanced at the sticky note on her monitor, a leftover from JC. "You're unstoppable. Don't tell the boss I said that." Her reply, scribbled on a note she'd left last night. "Coffee guy, you're gonna get me in trouble, but I owe you a donut," was still there, a small rebellion against the chaos. She was almost sure JC was Jay, the guy who'd kissed her senseless in the break room, but his secrecy gnawed at her. Why the alias? And why was he so invested in her? Her phone buzzed with a text from Trey Brooks, her best friend and unofficial detective. "Got dirt on Vanessa. She's been digging in the company archives, asking about old family records. Meet me tonight?" Maya typed back. "Can't. Buried in work. But keep digging. Something's off." Trey's reply was a string of skull emojis followed by, "You're gonna owe me big, Jackson." She smiled, but it faded fast. Vanessa's latest move wasn't just about the proposal. It was personal, a power play to push Maya out. And then there was Henry Caldwell's invitation to dinner at his estate, still sitting in her inbox like a riddle. The photo in her pocket, her as a kid, with her parents in front of a house that looked like the Caldwell mansion, felt heavier by the day. Her mom, a nurse who died when Maya was 10, had never mentioned the Caldwells, but Henry's email said Maya reminded him of someone special. Who? Maya pushed the thought aside and dove back into the proposal, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She'd survived Southside, survived losing her mom, survived this cutthroat office so far. She could handle Vanessa. She had to. By 6 p.m., the office was thinning out, the hum of computers fading as coworkers trickled to happy hour or home. Maya stayed, her earbuds blasting Otis Redding's Try a Little Tenderness, her dad's go-to track for tough days. She was deep in a spreadsheet when a shadow fell over her desk. She looked up, expecting Vanessa's smirk, but it was Karen Walsh. Karen's face was tight, her usual sharpness dulled by something like shame. "Jackson," she said, her voice clipped. "A word." Maya pulled out her earbuds, bracing herself. "Yes, ma'am?" Karen crossed her arms, avoiding her eyes. "About the board meeting. I misjudged the situation. Your work was solid. I should have given credit where it was due." Maya blinked, stunned. An apology from Karen was like rain in the desert. Thanks," she said, wary. "But why now?" Karen's jaw tightened. "Let's just say I don't like being played. Vanessa pushed me to present your work. I didn't see her game until it was too late." She paused, then added, "The data you need for the new requirements? It's in the shared drive now, folder labeled Q2 Analytics." Maya's mouth opened, but before she could respond, Karen turned and walked away, her heels clicking sharply. Maya stared after her, processing. Vanessa had set Karen up too, using her to crush Maya. The realization was a cold splash of water. This wasn't just office politics. It was war. She opened the shared drive, found the folder, and started downloading files, her mind racing. Vanessa was dangerous, and Maya was running out of time to figure out her endgame. At 9 p.m., Maya took a break, heading to the break room for coffee. The office was nearly empty, the Chicago skyline a sea of lights outside. She started the coffee machine, her hips swaying to Sam Cooke's "A Change Is Gonna Come" in her earbuds, when the door opened. Her heart skipped as Jay stepped inside, his suit jacket off, his shirt sleeves rolled up. "You're gonna wear out that machine, you know," he said, his voice warm, that crooked smile making her stomach flip. She yanked out her earbuds, her cheeks heating. "And you're gonna give me a heart attack, sneaking around like that. Don't you ever sleep, Jay?" "Not when there's good company," he said, grabbing a mug. He leaned against the counter close enough that she caught the faint scent of his cologne, woodsy, intoxicating. "How's the proposal coming?" Maya groaned, pouring coffee. "Like trying to climb Everest in flip-flops. Vanessa's piling on more work, and I'm pretty sure she's gunning for me." Jay's expression darkened just for a second. "She's got a habit of playing dirty. You holding up?" "Barely," she admitted, sipping her coffee. "But I'm not letting her win. I've fought harder battles than this." He nodded, his eyes steady on hers. "I know you have. You're tougher than this place, Maya." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard, and she felt that pull again, the one that had led to their kiss. She stepped closer, her voice teasing to mask her nerves. "You keep saying stuff like that, coffee guy. You trying to get me in trouble?" He chuckled, setting his mug down. "Maybe I'm the one in trouble." His hand brushed her arm, a deliberate touch that sent a shiver through her. The air between them thickened, charged with unspoken want. Then the lights flickered, and the elevator down the hall dinged loudly, breaking the spell. Maya stepped back, her heart racing. "You're gonna be the death of me, Jay," she said, half laughing. "Worth it?" he said, his voice low, his eyes locked on hers. "But seriously, Maya, watch your back with Vanessa. She's not just after your job." She frowned, picking up on the warning. "What do you know?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Just be careful, and keep those notes coming. I like your style." He winked and left, leaving her with more questions than answers. Back at her desk, Maya found a new sticky note. "You're a force, Maya. Don't let anyone dull that. JC." She smiled, but the warning lingered. Vanessa was a problem, and Jay, or JC, knew more than he was saying. The next evening, Maya sat in a South Side diner with Trey, the smell of fried chicken and cornbread filling the air. The jukebox played Al Green, and the neon sign outside buzzed faintly. Trey leaned across the table, his dreads tied back, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of a scoop. "Vanessa's up to something big," he said, sliding a printout toward her. "I hacked into the archive logs. Don't ask how. and she's been pulling files on the Caldwell family. Something about a car accident from 20 years ago and a lost heir. Maya's fork froze halfway to her mouth. A lost heir? Like a secret Caldwell? Maybe, Trey said, shrugging. But she's moving fast. I heard she's spreading rumors that Henry Caldwell's health is tanking. Board's freaking out. Maya's mind raced, connecting dots. Henry's dinner invitation, the photo of that house, her mom's silence about her past, it all felt tied to this. My mom worked for the Caldwells, she said slowly. She never talked about it, but that photo, it's their estate. Trey's eyes widened. Whoa, you think your mom knew something? I don't know, Maya said, her voice tight, but I need to find out. Can you keep digging? Already on it, Trey said, grinning. But you owe me a plate of ribs for this. Deal, she said, but her smile was strained. She pulled out the photo, staring at her mom's face, so much like her own. What had she been hiding? That night, Maya visited her dad at his apartment, a cozy spot filled with vinyl records and old concert posters. Mr. Jackson, 60, with a salt and pepper beard, was spinning a Stevie Wonder track when she walked in. There's my girl, he said, pulling her into a hug. You look like you're carrying the world, baby. Just starlight, she said, sinking onto the couch. Dad, can I ask you something? About Mom? His smile faded, but he nodded, sitting beside her. What's on your mind? She showed him the photo. This house. You said Mom worked there. Was it the Caldwells? And why didn't she ever talk about it? Mr. Jackson sighed, his eyes distant. Your mom was a nurse for their staff years back. She loved the work, but something happened. An accident, maybe a scandal. She got threats, Maya. Never told me details, just said she had to protect you. Quit right after. Maya's heart pounded. Threats? From who? Don't know, he said, his voice heavy. She took it to her grave, but she always said you were her light, Maya. Whatever she did, it was for you. Maya hugged him, her throat tight. Thanks, Dad. She left with more questions, the photo burning a hole in her pocket. Friday brought a new blow. Maya arrived at the office to find an email from Vanessa, copied, to the board, concerns about leadership stability. It hinted at Henry Caldwell's declining health, urging the board to consider new blood. The office was a hornet's nest, with rumors flying about Henry stepping down. Maya's gut churned. Vanessa was playing a bigger game than she'd thought. She headed to the break room for coffee, her mind a mess, when she bumped into Jay. Literally, her coffee sloshing onto his shirt. Oh, crap, she said, grabbing napkins. I'm so sorry. He laughed, taking the napkins. No harm done. You okay, Maya? You look like you're about to punch someone. Vanessa, she said, her voice low. She's spreading lies about Henry Caldwell, and I'm stuck in her crosshairs. You know anything about this? His jaw tightened, a flash of anger in his eyes. She's ambitious. Too ambitious. Stay sharp, Maya, and don't trust her with anything. Before she could press him, her phone rang. Henry Caldwell's assistant, confirming the dinner tomorrow. Maya hung up, her heart racing. She needed answers, and Henry might have them. Across the city, Vanessa met a board member in a sleek downtown lounge. Her forged letter, a doctored version of the Caldwell family document, tucked in her bag. With Henry unwell, she said, her voice smooth. Starlight needs stability. This letter proves I'm a Caldwell heir. I can step up. The board member frowned, skeptical. We'll need to verify this. Of course, Vanessa said, her smile unwavering. But inside she was calculating. Maya was a problem, but not for long. She'd make sure of it. That night, Maya collapsed onto her couch. the photo and Henry's invitation on her coffee table. She pulled out JC's latest note, her fingers tracing the words. Jay was hiding something, but he was also her anchor in this storm. She wrote a reply, her handwriting shaky. JC, you're my lucky charm. Don't let me down. She stuck it to her fridge, her resolve hardening. Vanessa was coming for her, but Maya was ready to fight. For her job, her truth, and maybe, just maybe, for the man who kept her heart racing. The Starlight Innovations office was a pressure cooker, the air thick with anticipation as the emergency board meeting loomed. Maya Jackson sat at her desk, her curls tied back in a fierce bun, her glasses slipping down her nose. The past week had been a gauntlet. Vanessa Reed's impossible project demands, rumors about Henry Caldwell's health, and the nagging mystery of her mom's connection to the Caldwell family. But Maya was done playing defense. Today, she was ready to fight. Her laptop glowed with the final version of her AI analytics proposal, polished to a shine despite Vanessa's sabotage. She'd stayed up until 3 a.m., fueled by coffee and the sticky notes from JC that had become her lifeline. The latest one, found this morning, read, "You're a storm, Maya. Let them feel it. JC." She'd written a reply, now tucked in her pocket. "Storm's coming, JC. Hope you're ready." She was almost certain JC was Jay, the man who'd kissed her in the break room and haunted her thoughts ever since. But his secrecy and his warnings about Vanessa kept her on edge. Her phone buzzed with a text from Trey Brooks, her best friend and amateur sleuth. "Got the goods. Vanessa's forged letters in her email drafts. Sending you screenshots. Go get her." Maya's heart raced as she opened the attachment. There it was. A draft of a letter claiming Vanessa was a Caldwell heir, with altered names and dates that didn't match the archive records Trey had dug up. It was a smoking gun, but she needed more. She needed the real letter, the one her mom might have been tied to. She glanced at the photo in her pocket, her as a kid with her parents in front of a house that matched the Caldwell estate. Last night's dinner with Henry Caldwell had only deepened the mystery. Henry, warm but frail, had taken her hand and said, "You're like your mother, Maya." She was fearless. When she'd pressed him about the photo, he'd hesitated, promising to explain soon. "Come back tomorrow," he'd said. "There's something you need to know." But tomorrow was too late. Vanessa's rumors about Henry's health had pushed the board to call this meeting, and Maya knew she was walking into a trap. Vanessa wasn't just after her job, she was after Starlight itself. Maya stood, smoothing her blazer and adjusting her scarf, its bold African patterns a reminder of her mom's strength. She grabbed her laptop and headed for the boardroom, her sneakers silent on the carpet. The fight was on. The boardroom was a glass fortress, its long table reflecting the Chicago skyline like a mirror. The board members, 10 sharp-eyed executives in tailored suits, murmured among themselves, their tension palpable. Ethan Caldwell, Starlight's CEO, sat at the head, his dark hair neat, his blue eyes scanning the room with a cold intensity that matched his reputation. Maya had never spoken to him, but his presence was a force, commanding silence without a word. Vanessa stood near the front, her blonde hair sleek, her smile practiced. She was presenting a strategic vision for Starlight, but Maya caught the glint in her eyes. Vanessa was setting the stage for something bigger. Karen Walsh, still stinging from her boardroom humiliation, sat quietly, her face unreadable. Maya took a seat near the back, her laptop ready, her pulse hammering. Vanessa clicked through her slides, her voice smooth. "With recent concerns about leadership stability," she said, glancing at Ethan, "Starlight needs a clear path forward. I've uncovered evidence that strengthens our foundation." She paused, pulling a document from her folder. "This letter, found in the archives, proves I'm a direct descendant of the Caldwell family, an heir lost in a tragic accident years ago." The board erupted in murmurs, heads turning to Ethan. Maya's blood ran cold. The forged letter, Vanessa was making her move, right here, right now. Ethan's expression didn't flicker, but his eyes narrowed. "That's a bold claim, Vanessa," he said, his voice like steel. "Show us." Vanessa handed copies to the board, her confidence unshaken. The letter details a child, separated from the family after a car accident. I've verified the dates and names. With Henry's health in question, I'm prepared to step into a leadership role. Maya's hands clenched into fists. She couldn't let this happen. She stood, her chair scraping loudly, every eye turning to her. "That's a lie," she said, her voice clear despite the knot in her chest. "That letter's a fake." The room went silent, the air heavy with shock. Vanessa's smile froze, her eyes flashing with fury. "Excuse me?" she said, her tone icy. "You're out of line, Maya." "No," Maya said, stepping forward, her laptop under her arm. "You're the one out of line. I have proof." She glanced at Ethan, whose gaze was locked on her, unreadable, but intense. She opened her laptop, pulling up Trey's screenshots. "This is Vanessa's email draft where she edited the letter. The names, the dates, they're all wrong. The real letter tells a different story." The board murmured, leaning forward. Vanessa's composure cracked, her hands tightening on her folder. "This is absurd," she said, her voice sharp. "She's desperate, making things up to save herself." "Then let's compare," Maya said, her voice steady. She turned to Ethan. "I found a reference to the original letter in the archives, but it's locked in Henry's private files. If you check it, you'll see the truth." Ethan's eyes flicked to Vanessa, then back to Maya. "You're sure about this, Miss Jackson?" "Dead sure," she said, meeting his gaze. For a moment, she saw something in his eyes. Trust, maybe, or something deeper. It gave her the courage to keep going. Ethan nodded, his voice calm but firm. "Clara, get the archive team. Pull Henry's files now." Clara Caldwell, Ethan's older sister and a board member, stood, her sharp features set in determination. "On it," she said, striding out. The room buzzed with tension, the board whispering, Vanessa's face paling. Maya's heart pounded, but she held her ground, her eyes locked on Vanessa. This was it, the moment she'd been fighting for. 20 minutes later, Clara returned, a folder in hand. She handed it to Ethan, who opened it, his expression unreadable. He pulled out a faded letter, its edges yellowed, and began to read aloud, his voice steady. "To the Caldwell family," he began. "On the night of the accident, our housekeeper, Lena Jackson, risked her life to save your child. She pulled the girl from the wreckage, but the car exploded, and Lena was lost. The child survived briefly, but passed later. Lena left behind a daughter, Maya, whom Henry vowed to protect in her memory." Ethan paused, his eyes finding Maya's. "This letter is signed by a family friend dated 20 years ago. It matches the archive records. There's no mention of a surviving heir." The board erupted, voices overlapping. Maya's knees buckled, and she gripped the table, her eyes stinging. Her mom, Lena, had been a hero. Henry's promise explained his kindness, the dinner invitation, the way he'd looked at her like family. Ethan held up a hand, silencing the room. "Vanessa," he said, his voice like a blade, "explain this discrepancy." Vanessa stammered, her face flushed. I found the letter in good faith. There must be a mistake." "No mistake," Maya said, her voice rising. "Your email draft shows you changed the names. You tried to rewrite history, Vanessa. But my mom's truth isn't yours to steal." Clara stepped forward, her eyes blazing. Pull Vanessa's email records, now!" Within minutes, a tech confirmed it. The draft, the edits, all laid bare on the projector. The board's outrage was swift. their voices a chorus of disapproval. Ethan stood, his presence commanding. "Vanessa, you're relieved of your duties. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out." Vanessa's face crumpled, her composure shattered. She grabbed her bag and stormed out, her heels echoing in the stunned silence. Maya exhaled, relief washing over her, but sadness lingered. She'd won. But at what cost? Ethan turned to her, his voice softer now. "Miss Jackson, your courage today was exceptional. You'll lead the AI analytics project. We'll discuss details tomorrow." Maya nodded, her throat tight. "Thank you, sir." As the board dispersed, she caught Ethan's gaze again, a flicker of warmth in his eyes that made her heart skip. She'd survived, but the truth about her mom, and the man who'd been her anchor, still loomed. That evening, the office was quiet, the Chicago skyline a canvas of stars. Maya stayed late, tying up her proposal when Ethan appeared at her desk. No suit jacket, just a white shirt, his sleeves rolled up. She froze, realizing this was the first time they'd spoken outside his J persona. "Miss Jackson," he said, his voice low. "Can we talk?" She nodded, standing, her scarf slipping off her shoulder. "Sure, Mr. Caldwell. I mean, Ethan." He smiled, a real one, not the CEO mask. "Ethan's fine. Come with me." He led her to his office, a sleek space with a view of Lake Michigan. The door closed, and the air shifted, charged with the weight of everything unsaid. "Maya," he said, stepping closer, "I owe you an apology. I should have told you who I was from the start." She crossed her arms, her heart racing. "You're JC, aren't you? The notes, the coffee, the whole coffee guy act. That was you." He nodded, his eyes locked on hers. "I saw you that first night working late and, I don't know. You were real, Maya. Not like this place. I wanted to know you, not as the CEO, but as me." Her breath caught, the sincerity in his voice undoing her. "You kissed me, Ethan. And then you let me think you were just some guy. Why?" "Because I'm an idiot," he said, his voice rough. "And because I was scared. I've been burned before, Maya. But you're different." The space between them shrank, the pull undeniable. She stepped closer, her voice soft. "You're still trouble, coffee guy." He laughed, but it faded as his hand found her waist, his touch warm through her blazer. "And you're a storm," he murmured, echoing his note. His thumb traced her hip, slow, deliberate, and her breath hitched, her hands finding his chest. The world narrowed to just them. The hum of the city, the heat of his skin, the way his eyes darkened with want. He leaned in, and this time, she didn't pull back. His lips met hers, fierce and hungry, a kiss that burned away every doubt. Her fingers curled into his shirt, pulling him closer, and his hands slid to her back, pressing her against him. The kiss deepened, a tangle of need and relief, like they'd been fighting to reach this moment. She felt his heartbeat under her palm, fast and steady, and for the first time, she felt anchored, not adrift. They broke apart, breathless, foreheads touching. "Maya," he whispered, his voice raw, "I'm all in. No more secrets." She smiled, her lips tingling. "You better be, Ethan, 'cause I don't do half measures." He laughed, kissing her again, softer this time, a promise. The city lights twinkled outside, but in that moment, they were the only stars that mattered. The next morning, Maya visited Henry Caldwell at his estate, bringing a vinyl of Sam Cooke's Ain't That Good News. He was recovering, his color better, but his eyes held a weight. "You did good, Maya," he said, taking her hand. "Your mom would be proud." She sat beside him, her voice soft. "Why didn't you tell me? About her? About the accident?" Henry sighed, his gaze distant. "Lena was family to us. When she died saving that child, I swore to look after you. But I failed her, Maya. I couldn't give you the life she deserved." "You didn't fail," Maya said, her eyes stinging. "You gave me a chance. That's enough." He squeezed her hand, his smile warm. "You're family, Maya. Not by blood, but by heart." She hugged him, tears falling. For the first time she felt like she belonged, not just at Starlight, but in the world her mom had left behind. Back at the office, Clara Caldwell caught Maya in the hallway, her sharp features softened. "I misjudged you," she said. "You're good for Ethan and for Starlight. Don't let him screw it up." Maya laughed, surprised. "I'll keep him in line." As Clara walked away, Maya found a new sticky note on her desk. "You're my storm, Maya. Let's weather it together. Ethan." She smiled, tucking it in her pocket. Vanessa was gone, her mom's truth was out, and Ethan was hers. But the photo still nagged at her, a loose thread in the puzzle. She wasn't done digging. Not yet. The Starlight Innovations office hummed with a new energy, the Chicago skyline sparkling beyond the windows like a crown of lights. Maya Jackson stood in the conference room, her curls pulled into a sleek bun, her glasses polished to a shine. She was no longer the rookie who'd tripped over chords or sent rogue emails. Today, she was a team leader, presenting her AI analytics project to a room of executives, her voice steady, her slides sharp. Her scarf, with its bold African patterns, draped over her chair like a badge of pride, a nod to her mom's legacy. 6 months had passed since the boardroom showdown, since Vanessa Reed's forged letter was exposed, and Maya's truth, her mom's sacrifice, came to light. The victory had been hard-won, but it had changed everything. Maya had proven she belonged, not just at Starlight, but in the world she'd fought to claim. Yet the weight of her mom's past and the lingering questions about that photo still tugged at her heart. She clicked to her final slide, her eyes sweeping the room. "This platform will cut costs by 20% while boosting efficiency," she said, her tone confident. "It's not just tech. It's a game changer for how we connect data to people." The executives nodded, some jotting notes, others exchanging impressed glances. Ethan Caldwell, Starlight's CEO, sat at the head, his blue eyes fixed on Maya with a warmth that made her heart skip. He wasn't just her boss anymore. He was her partner, her coffee guy, the man who'd left sticky notes and stolen her breath with a kiss that still burned in her memory. "Excellent work, Ms. Jackson," Ethan said, his voice professional, but laced with pride. "We'll move forward with implementation." Meeting adjourned. As the room cleared, Maya gathered her notes, her hands steady despite the adrenaline. She'd done it, nailed her first big presentation as a leader. But when Ethan lingered, closing the door behind the last executive, her pulse quickened. "You were incredible," he said, stepping closer, his tie loosened, his smile crooked. "They didn't stand a chance." She grinned, adjusting her glasses. "Told you I'm a storm coffee guy. You keeping up?" "Barely," he said, his voice low, his hand finding her waist. The touch sent a shiver through her, a reminder of the fire between them. "But I'm not complaining." She laughed, but it faded as he pulled her closer, his thumb tracing the curve of her hip through her blazer. The conference room faded, the city lights blurring outside, and for a moment it was just them, the hum of their breaths, the warmth of his skin, the way his eyes held hers like a promise. She leaned in, her lips brushing his, soft at first, then deeper, a kiss that spoke of trust, of battles won together. His hands slid to her back, pressing her against him, and she felt his heartbeat, steady and sure, anchoring her in a world that had once felt so unsteady. They broke apart, breathless, foreheads touching. "You're going to get us in trouble, Caldwell," she whispered, her voice teasing. "Worth it," he said, kissing her again, lighter this time, a spark that lingered. "I love you, Maya." Her heart swelled, the words settling into her like a melody. "Love you too, Ethan. Even if you're still a sneaky note writer." He chuckled, stepping back as the door creaked open, an intern poking their head in. Sorry, boss. Need you for a call." "Duty calls," Ethan said, winking at Maya. "See you tonight?" "Count on it," she said, her smile wide as he left. She gathered her things, her engagement ring, a simple band with a star-shaped diamond, catching the light. Ethan had proposed 2 months ago, and the memory still made her giddy. But tonight wasn't just about them. It was about her mom, her dad, and the community that had shaped her. That evening, Maya stood on a small stage in a Southside community center, the air thick with the smell of barbecue and the pulse of soul music. The room was packed. Neighbors, friends, Starlight colleagues, all gathered for a fundraiser she'd organized to save a historic jazz club, the Blue Note, where her dad had spun records for decades. The club was a piece of her heart, a link to her parents, and Maya wasn't about to let it close. She adjusted the mic, her scarf draped over her shoulders, her voice steady despite the butterflies. "Thank you all for being here," she said, scanning the crowd. Her dad, Mr. Jackson, stood near the front, his salt and pepper beard gleaming, his grin wide. Trey Brooks, her best friend, gave her a thumbs up from the bar. Henry Caldwell, recovering and spry, sat with Clara, both beaming like proud parents. And Ethan, leaning against a wall, his eyes locked on her, made her heart skip. "This club isn't just a building," she continued. "It's where my dad taught me music, where my mom danced with us, where I learned what home feels like. Let's keep it alive." The crowd cheered, and the band kicked into Al Green's Love and Happiness, the horns blaring, the rhythm infectious. Maya stepped off the stage, her sneakers hitting the floor, and Ethan met her halfway, pulling her into a slow dance. His hands settled on her hips, her arms looping around his neck, and they swayed, the world blurring around them. "You're amazing, you know that?" he said, his voice soft, his breath warm against her ear. She smiled, her fingers tracing his collar. "You're not so bad yourself, coffee guy." She leaned closer, her lips brushing his jaw, a teasing touch that made him tighten his grip. The music pulsed, the lights dim, and for a moment they were alone in the crowd, their bodies moving as one, the heat between them a quiet fire. His hand slid lower, resting at the small of her back, and she felt the promise in his touch, a future, a life, a love that wouldn't break. "Careful," she whispered, her voice playful. "You're going to start something we can't finish here." He laughed, low and rough. "Don't tempt me, Maya." They danced until the song ended, the crowd's applause pulling them back to reality. Maya's dad took the stage, spinning a Stevie Wonder track, and the party roared on. Henry approached, his cane tapping lightly, his eyes bright. "Your mom would have loved this," he said, squeezing her hand. "You're her light, Maya." She hugged him, tears pricking her eyes. "Thanks, Henry, for everything." As the night wound down, Maya and Ethan slipped outside, the Chicago air cool against their skin. They walked to a nearby park, the city lights twinkling like stars. Sitting on a bench, Ethan took her hand, his thumb tracing her ring. "I meant what I said," he murmured. "You're my home, Maya. Always will be." She leaned into him, her head on his shoulder. "You're mine too, Ethan, even if you're still a little sneaky." He laughed, kissing her forehead, and they sat in silence, the city humming around them. Maya thought of the photo, now framed on her desk, and the letter she'd found last week, tucked in her mom's old belongings. "Maya," it read, "you're our light. Live boldly, love fiercely." Her parents' words had guided her here, to this moment, this love, this life. But one loose thread remained. Trey had called yesterday, saying he'd found a new document in Starlight's archives, a memo hinting at a financial scandal tied to the accident that killed her mom. It was vague, but it suggested someone at Starlight had covered it up. Maya hadn't told Ethan yet, not wanting to stir old wounds, but she knew she'd have to. The truth was her legacy, and she wouldn't let it stay buried. The next week, Maya stood on the Michigan Avenue Bridge, the Chicago River glittering below, Ethan beside her. The city stretched before them, a canvas of dreams and fights, losses and wins. They held hands, their laughter mingling with the wind, ready to face whatever came next. She turned to him, her eyes bright. "You ready for this, coffee guy? 'Cause I'm not slowing down." He pulled her close, his lips brushing hers. "Bring it on, Storm. I'm all in." They kissed, the city fading, their future wide open. Maya Jackson had found her place, not just at Starlight, not just with Ethan, but in the heart of her own story, and she was ready to write the next chapter. Wow, what a ride. Maya and Ethan's love, her fight for truth, and that soul-filled night at the Blue Note. It's a story of heart and hustle. But what's next for them? Will that mysterious memo uncover new secrets at Starlight? Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment with your thoughts. What do you think Maya and Ethan will face, and how will they conquer it? Your ideas keep this story alive, so let's hear 'em.